Today we're making tomato soup, which some people might think is very boring, but that's only because it's harder to say tomato, onion, garlic, chipotle, pepper, broth, salt, sugar, pepper soup that's roasted until it tastes so delicious you're gonna go,
You suck at cooking, yeah, you totally suck.
We're gonna chop up this red onion, which is actually purple. It doesn't matter too much how you chop it, since later we're gonna be using a smithereen machine, so go buck wild with your onion chopping styled. Then we're gonna throw that in our baking dish with some olive oil and wang jangle that around, but not so quickly that it starts to cook from the friction. We're gonna do the same thing with garlic, making sure not to care about the shape, whether that's a triangle, a perfect circle, a square parallelogram, a gram, a hand, a pan, some jam, your man. Those are also going to go in the baking dish for a good wang jangulation as well. Now, if you want to add a little smoky spiciness, and you should want to add that, I highly recommend adding 1 chipotle pepper. If you add 2 chipotle peppers, you're going to end up with around 75 degrees Fahrenheit of spice, so be careful. Then we'll just wang jangle those in. Now we're going to wisely choose our tomatoes. It's important that you use real tomatoes and not potatoes painted red, as those will taste like red paint. And we're not making red paint soup today. You can, of course, use fresh tomatoes. You can use couch tomatoes, but I'm gonna use my favorite, tomatoes that are pirate aged. And we'll just get these open. If you think tomatoes are gross, you can also use finger tomatoes. Now we're gonna spoon feed these tomatoes to a parchment papered pan, and by spoon feed I mean fork feed because you're not a little baby. We're separating these from that baking dish so that the tomato juice doesn't drown the onion and garlic, so that we get more Maillard reaction going. And also because we have red onions and red tomato, which if roasted together will cancel out the flavor. Both those pans can go in the undo on 420 fundo, but every now and then we'll do a little wang jangling and rearranging. Then we'll throw them back in. Then we'll do that again, and you can see we're Maillarding the heck out of these. Excuse my language, I'm sorry. But I will not apologize for my wang janglage. And these will cook for around an hour or until you get bored. And I'm gonna try to deglaze the dish with some tomato juice. Isn't deglaze a confusing term? Like, am I removing a coat of shellac here or something? And basically all that stuff is gonna go in the pot. And then I'm gonna take out my smithereen stick while still being angry with my sister for taking back her Vitamix. And we're just gonna start magic wanding that stuff until it turns into something soupy. I avoided adding all the broth so that we don't get too much of a soup tornado going here, because there's nothing worse than a soup that's too windy. Then we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of salt. Then we're gonna add some pepper. We'll wang jangle this on low heat. We'll check for wabs and do some adjusting with the salt. We'll admire the thick texture, and we'll also adjust with just a bit of sugar if you want. Just take it a pinch at a time so you don't overdo it, and we'll let that cook while we work on our grilled cheese, also known as closed face pizza, also known as hot flat savory cannoli. The big trend in grilled cheese over the past years is using mayo on the bread instead of butter. If you can't decide which to use, just combine them both. Now we're gonna bateo the bread. We're slicing up this Asiago cheese. When slicing cheese, always test a piece to make sure it's not poison. Nope, that's not poison. We're also gonna slice up this mystery cheese. It's a mystery because I threw the packaging away and wrapped it properly instead of trying to tuck that ripped plastic in, which leaves the corners dried out and gross. This is a legit reason to start a fight with your roommate and or partner. Good news, also not poison. And finally, a handcrafted artisan slice, so delicate and high-end they've wrapped each slice individually. Also not poison. Pan is on medium-low, and you do want to make sure there are specks of tomato soup all over the stovetop before you begin. And we're just gonna be patient here. You can put a lid on top if you want, but just don't cook it too hot so the cheese has time to melt before the bread has time to burn. And when it's done, don't put it on a plate and try to cut it. Get it on a cutting board and take your knife and in one smooth motion slice it. It hurts the sandwich a lot less this way. By the way, if you were actually making a grilled cheese, you'd be doing this. But you're not. You're pan frying and you're lying about it, and you're happy you lied about it because this is so dry and you can't taste the bateo at all, and so you don't need to regret it. But if you want, you can also try the Cleveland steamed cheese, which is one of the most flavorful foods from that cuisine. We didn't put any cream in the soup because it really doesn't need it, but if you want, you can. Go right ahead. You can also throw in some chopped chives. And now it's time to submerge your sandwich in that delicious soup, which is really just a sandwich dip at this point. They're so good together, you're gonna go, these are so good together. And if you want to make delicious handcrafted croutons for the soup, you can look up a tutorial on how to do that because I didn't make that.